Hello everyone, I'm Aylin. Just like every Thursday, we are here again this week with a new topic, which is main reasons of false alarms in fire detection systems. So first of all, fire detection systems plays a critical role in ensuring the safety of life and property, as you know, and it is crucial that every alarm received from these systems is accurate and reliable. However, false alarms caused by factors such as inappropriate detector selection or faulty installation or environmental influences and insufficient maintenance can both reduce the user confidence and lead to the unnecessary labor and time losses for businesses. So in this webinar, we will technically address the most common causes of false alarms in fire detection systems, and we will examine how these problems can be prevented and explore how correct product selection and proper design, correct installation, and also regular maintenance practices to contribute to system reliability. First of all, the main reasons of false alarms generally caused by incorrect detector selection and placement, such as we cannot use in dirty environments, in smoky environments, we cannot use optical smoke detectors, or in kitchens, we cannot use an optical smoke detector again. We should use a heat detector because of the dusty environment. And also, the second one is dust and dirt accumulation, similarly, and steam and condensation. In kitchens, there are steam and condensation, so we cannot use optical smoke detector as I said earlier. And we have the electrical interferences, the electromagnetic interference and electromagnetic conductivity. These are again causes the false alarms. And we have the lack of periodic maintenance, also changes in environmental conditions. And the last one is cable and connection faults. So the first one is incorrect detector selection and placement. So one of the most common causes of false alarms in fire detection systems is the selection of a detector type unsuitable for the application area or the placement of the detector in the wrong location. So each detector is designed for different environmental conditions, and they can only perform correctly in the appropriate environment. For example, using an optical smoke detector in kitchens where steam is intense, placing detectors in areas with strong air currents or not complying with the mounting rules specified in the standards can cause an alarm to occur even though there is no actual fire. Therefore, when selecting a detector, the intended use, the physical characteristics of the environment, and the requirements of the relevant standards should be evaluated together. Yes, the other one is dust and dirt accumulation. So as you know, dust, dirt, and other particles accumulating on the sensor surface of fire detectors due to prolonged lack of cleaning, and it can negatively affect the detector's detection characteristics and life scale. And in particular, dust accumulating in the sensor housing of optical smoke detectors can cause light to scatter abnormally and leading to detector to perceive smoke as present and generates a false alarm, of course. And construction sites, manufacturing facilities, warehouses, so similarly dusty environments are areas where this risk is higher. So regular maintenance and cleaning ensure the detectors function correctly, and this function is significantly reducing the likelihood of false alarms especially. Then the other one is steam and condensation. So in kitchens, bathrooms, or laundry rooms, there are heavy steams during the cooking or water showering and the hot waters especially. So steam and condensation are common causes of false alarms differently, and especially in the environments like this. So high concentrations of water vapor or condensation within the detector can affect the light detection system of an optical smoke detector. So it causes to perceive smoke as present. So furthermore, condensation resulting from sudden temperature changes can negatively impact the detector performance. In such areas, selecting the appropriate detector type for the environmental conditions, positioning the detectors at a sufficient distance from steam sources, and using a heat detector or combined detector. So if necessary, will significantly reduce the risk of false alarms. So the correct applications, let's example it. So in areas with heavy steam, choose a heat detector or a combined detector instead of an optical smoke detector. And position detectors at a sufficient distance from steam sources, such as the kitchen. And pay attention to ventilation and temperature changes. So provide regular ventilation in the area and avoid sudden temperature changes to prevent condensation. And also regular maintenance. So regularly inspecting and cleaning the detectors reduces the risk of false alarms. Yes, electrical interference. So electromagnetic interferences can cause false alarms in fire detection systems by creating erroneous signals. And what is it actually? So one of devices such as high power motors or frequency inverters, generators, welding machines or elevator systems, and also wireless communication equipment can emit the electromagnetic interferences into their surroundings. So the use of improperly shielded cables or improperly filtered equipments, routing signal cables along the same path as power cables, or inadequate grounding practices can cause this interference to be perceived as a false signal. Therefore, cabling in accordance with the EMC regulations, using shielded cables, filtered equipments, and applying the proper grounding, proper earthing, and routing a signal lines at a sufficient distance from powerful power lines, it will importantly reduce the risk of false alarms. This type of EMC regulations is extremely complicated structures, and the tests are also expensive. And then we have the lack of periodic maintenance. So for fire detection systems to function correctly, reliably, the regular maintenance and testing procedures must be carried out without fail. So over time, dust accumulation in detectors, aging of electronic components such as photodiodes and transmitters, receivers, and loosening of connection points and changes in environmental conditions can negatively affect the system performance also. So detectors that do not undergo periodic maintenance may detect a real fire later, and the probability of generating false alarms also increases. So therefore, cleaning the detectors, performing functional tests, and also examining the alarm and fault logs, and checking the system in accordance with the relevant standards at a certain intervals. These are of great importance in preventing false alarms. So we should take this seriously. So, changes in environmental conditions. So, previous condition is suitable environmental conditions. So, low airflow, appropriate temperature and humidity, and low dust particles. So, if there's a smoke detector in the area, smoke easily reaches the detector and the system operates correctly. After the change, there will be a higher airflow, or temperature and humidity is changing, and increased dust and particles in the area. So, if there is a fire in that area, the smoke may not reach the detector, and the false alarms will be occur caused by the dust particles or humidity. So what should be done? So evaluate the environmental changes regularly. So note that there will be a higher airflow and there may be a temperature and humidity change. So we should evaluate this. And also review the detector type and placement. Maybe we can change the detector. We can use a heat detector or combined heat detector or multi-sensors. So the other one is pay attention to ventilation and airflow, and also ensure the system complies with current conditions. So in addition, however, the changes in the intended use, the addition of new ventilation systems, variations in temperature and humidity values, or changes in production processes over time can affect the detection performance of the detectors. So in particular, strong air currents can delay the arrival of smoke to the detector or carry the dust and particles to the detector, causing the false alarms. So it is important one. And the other one is cable and connection faults. So another significant cause of false alarms is this. So loose terminal connections, oxidized terminals, damaged cables, or insulation problems, or splices not made according to standards can cause signal changes in the system and leading to false alarm information from detectors or modules. So in addition, routing signal cables incorrectly or making connections that do not comply with the manufacturer's instructions, it can negatively affect the system stability. So therefore, using the correct cables, secure connections, and appropriate splicing methods, and testing the circuit continuity during the installation are among the most important practices that reduces the risk of the false alarms. So, how can we prevent the false alarms in the Supervisor Plus application? So, another solution to prevent false alarms is the integration of fire alarm system monitoring and control software with IP camera systems. So when a fire alarm occurs, it is crucial that the software opens the nearest camera feed and allowing the authorized personnel to verify whether a fire is actually occurring. For example, if someone in the building presses the fire alarm manual call point when there is no fire, the authorized personnel can determine that the fire alarm is false by checking the camera, and it can be displayed on the software screen, and also it can be prevented. So in conclusion, false alarms undermine confidence in fire alarm systems. Even if an alarm is triggered, occupants of the building may disregard it. Furthermore, false alarms can disable the system and potentially leading to loss of life and property in the event of a real fire. Therefore, it is necessary to identify the causes of false alarms and improve the systems. So additionally, integrating the IP camera systems with a software that monitors and controls the fire alarm systems helps prevent many false alarms and increasing the confidence. Yes, thanks for your participation. Next week we will be meet again at 11 a.m. See you.